The suspected D.C. shooter, Ramanullah Zakanwal, was part of a zero unit in Afghanistan, elite militias backed by the CIA. So let's take a closer look about what we know about these groups. First, these zero units that were recruited by the CIA that are operating for specific elite counterterrorism units and missions come in this southern Afghanistan area, Kandahar being some of the fiercest fighting, Helmand province, Uruzgan. This is where Zakanwal is not only born and raised, but this is where he was stationed. His unit was out of the Kandahar region. Now let's talk about Zakanwal's vetting process. He did get some vetting. We had biometric screening, CIA did, biographic checks on interagency watch lists. The CIA looked to see if he had connections to any terrorist groups, and he had in-person interviews. So there was some vetting, but let's talk about his actual unit. He was assigned to NDS 03. That's a National Directorate of Security, which is Afghanistan's CIA, if you will, intelligence service. He was working for that when he was recruited and trained by the CIA to fight against the Taliban. But these units were operating outside the chain of command of U.S. and Afghan forces. That's significant. That suggests he may have seen some significant fighting in missions because these zero units are known for their brutality. Some called them death squads. Let's bring in now Lara Burns, head of terrorism research program on extremism at George Washington University and former FBI supervisory special agent. Lara, we're learning a lot more about Zakanwal and the fact that he's part of this zero unit, but yet we're also looking into how he makes it across the country to carry out this ambush. What are your thoughts this morning?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it. Yes, this Mr. Zakanwal's pathway from Washington to D.C., it raises some interesting questions, right? Questions like, was Mr. Zakanwal already radicalized before he migrated to the United States? Did he come here with the intent to commit an act of terrorism when he found the opportunity? Or rather, did he migrate here with good intentions and for some reason become disaffected with society or fail to assimilate and then self-radicalize and then decide to mobilize with a target of opportunity? I think that as the investigation proceeds, FBI Director Kash Patel has said that they are looking at this as an act of terrorism, that facts will become available and help us determine exactly what his radicalization process was.
You know, Lara, FBI Director Kash Patel talked a little bit about Zakanwal's relationship with Afghanistan partner forces. Listen here.
There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. This individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet in any way, shape, or form this individual and countless others, and this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country.
So, Lara, clearly Zakanwal ends up here because of his partnership with our U.S. forces, with the CIA, and it appears he did have vetting, as I just pointed out, but yet there are still links, weak links in this vetting process. Explain your sort of view of that.
Yes, I mean, the overall vetting process, if we're talking about the broader vetting process, it didn't just involve Mr. Zakanwal, because it does appear that he had some sort of vetting, was extremely complicated and chaotic. And, it really began with what I see as the intelligence community's failure to predict how quickly Kabul would fall. And because of that failure to understand what was going to ensue, there was a lack of preparation for what that evacuation process of our allies would actually look like and entail, and the challenges that they would face. And there were many challenges. We had hundreds of thousands of Afghan nationals who assisted our forces in various capacities and risked their lives. But the ability to vet individuals in that chaotic environment was extremely difficult because of the naming conventions that were in Afghanistan. Some individuals used first name only. There were lacks of date of birth. There were lacks of identification documents. And so when you're talking about thousands of people fleeing violence and flooding onto planes, we weren't prepared to vet them.
It's a great point. It's a great point, Laura. I just want to, get to this quickly, and that is now President Trump is calling for a re-scrutiny of the vetting of those who came here. It's possible Lockenwall came here with good intentions and became radicalized here in the past 4 years. So can we accomplish the process of re-vetting a lot of these individuals that were brought here? Will that work?
I think it's necessary. It's necessary for the protection of our national security, because at the end of the day, especially in those first months, when we had thousands of people migrating here, the U.S. government was not prepared to properly vet. The vetting was minimal. And I think it is necessary, because although a number of individuals migrated here who sacrificed their lives for our government, there were individuals who were not properly vetted that likely have nefarious intent here.
Yep.
And I think a re-scrutinizing of the vetting process is necessary.
We'll see where it goes. Lara Burns, thank you for taking time this morning.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Tragedy struck Washington, D.C. on Wednesday when 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard were shot in a violent attack that has left the nation in shock. 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, a highly respected and dedicated service member who had started her service in June 2023, succumbed to her injuries, while 24-year-old Andrew Wolf remains in critical condition in the hospital. The attack was carried out by a 29-year-old Afghan national who previously worked alongside the CIA in Afghanistan and had legally entered the United States. Authorities have described the incident as a terrorist act, and the FBI has launched a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the shooting. President Donald Trump addressed the nation with deep sorrow over the tragic event. He confirmed the death of Sarah Beckstrom and expressed the anguish felt by the entire country, describing the attack as a horrifying terrorist act in which a savage monster gunned down 2 service members in our nation's capital. Trump emphasized the bravery and dedication of the West Virginia National Guard, noting that the victims were deployed as part of the D.C. Task Force, a unit responsible for ensuring the security of the city, which had remained incident-free for months prior to this attack. Sarah Beckstrom, only 20 years old, was described by those who knew her as a magnificent person, outstanding in every way. Her parents were reportedly with her during the final moments, highlighting the personal and profound loss her family endured. Andrew Wolf, the other victim, continues to fight for his life in critical condition. President Trump expressed hope for his recovery, while noting that the suspect is also in serious condition. The attack raises serious concerns about security measures in Washington, D.C., especially regarding the safety of deployed National Guard members. The fact that the assailant had prior experience working with the CIA in Afghanistan adds a complex dimension to the incident. It also brings attention to the vetting processes and the challenges involved in monitoring individuals who legally enter the country but may later pose security risks. The West Virginia National Guard plays a crucial role in supporting law enforcement and ensuring public safety, not only in their home state, but also in assignments across the country, including deployments to the nation's capital. Members of the Guard often work alongside federal authorities, participating in high-profile security operations, and their service is vital to maintaining order and protecting citizens. This attack underscores the dangers they face daily, even while performing what might seem like routine assignments in highly secured areas. Sarah Beckstrom's untimely death is not only a personal tragedy for her family and friends, but also a profound loss for the National Guard and the nation as a whole. Young, highly trained and committed to service, she represented the very best of the Guard. Her dedication, courage and sense of duty are being remembered as a symbol of the sacrifice made by countless service members across the country. In addition to the immediate loss and trauma caused by the attack, there is a broader conversation about terrorism, extremism and the protection of US service members on domestic soil. While terrorist attacks are often associated with overseas conflicts, incidents like this demonstrate that violent acts can occur anywhere, even in the nation's capital, which has long been considered one of the safest and most secure cities in the United States. This tragic event serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities that exist and the need for continued vigilance and security measures. The suspect, a 29-year-old Afghan national, has become a central figure in ongoing investigations. Reports indicate that he had previously worked with the CIA in Afghanistan, providing valuable intelligence and support in the field. While the exact motives behind the attack are still being examined, authorities have confirmed that he illegally entered the United States, highlighting the challenges faced by law enforcement in identifying potential threats among those legally residing in the country. The FBI, along with local law enforcement and federal agencies, is working diligently to gather information about the suspect's background, movements and possible connections to other individuals or organisations. President Trump's statement not only acknowledged the bravery of the victims, but also emphasised the nation's collective grief. He described Sarah Beckstrom as outstanding in every way, in every department, and praised the heroism of both victims who were performing their duties as part of the DC task force. The president also highlighted the severity of the crime, calling it a really bad crime that shocked the entire nation. Such statements serve as both a tribute to the victims and a rallying call for the country to come together in the face of tragedy. The attack on the National Guard members has prompted discussions about the broader role of the Guard in domestic security. Typically tasked with responding to natural disasters, emergencies and domestic threats, the National Guard's responsibilities have expanded in recent years to include counter-terrorism support and critical security operations in high-profile locations. This dual role, combining military readiness with public safety, places Guard members in situations that can be both dangerous and unpredictable. The incident in DC highlights the very real risks faced by those who serve in this capacity, reminding the public that even well-trained personnel are vulnerable to acts of violence. Sarah Beckstrom's service began just months ago in June 2023, yet in that short time she made a lasting impact. Young, committed and highly respected, she embodied the qualities that the National Guard strives to instill in its members: dedication, discipline and selfless service. Her death is a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by those in uniform and the ultimate price that can be demanded of individuals serving their country. For her family, friends and fellow service members, the loss is immeasurable and her memory is now a powerful symbol of courage and dedication. Andrew Wolfe, the other victim, continues to fight for his life, illustrating the ongoing human toll of the attack. While details about his condition remain limited, medical teams are providing intensive care and the nation continues to hope for his recovery. His struggle for survival serves as a stark contrast to the sudden and violent loss of his colleague, emphasising both the fragility and resilience of life in the face of tragedy. The response from law enforcement and federal agencies has been swift and thorough. The FBI has taken the lead in investigating the shooting, working alongside local police and other federal partners to piece together the events leading up to the attack. Understanding how the assailant gained access, why the attack occurred, and whether others were involved are all critical components of the ongoing investigation. These efforts aim not only to bring justice for the victims, but also to prevent similar attacks in the future. This tragic incident also sparks conversations about the wider implications for national security policy, particularly regarding the monitoring of individuals with prior intelligence connections or overseas service. The suspect's background as a former CIA collaborator in Afghanistan raises complex questions about the vetting process for those entering the United States and the ongoing challenges of ensuring safety without infringing on civil liberties. Policymakers, security experts, and law enforcement agencies are likely to examine these issues closely in the wake of this event, seeking ways to balance security with legal and ethical obligations. President Trump's public remarks have emphasised both the horror of the attack and the resilience of the nation. By highlighting the bravery of the National Guard members and the shock felt across the country, his statements serve to unify the public in mourning, while also drawing attention to the critical role of those who serve in uniform. His tribute to Sarah Beckstrom, in particular, underscores the personal dimension of loss, reminding citizens that behind every headline and statistic are real people, families and communities affected by tragedy. In conclusion, the shooting of 2 West Virginia National Guard members in Washington, D.C. stands as a tragic reminder of the dangers faced by those who serve to protect the nation. Sarah Beckstrom's death and Andrew Wolfe's critical condition mark a profound loss for their families, the Guard, and the country as a whole. The attack, carried out by a 29-year-old Afghan national with previous CIA experience, has prompted a nationwide outpouring of grief, as well as a renewed focus on security, intelligence and the protection of service members. As investigations continue, the nation mourns the loss of a young hero and prays for the recovery of another, while reflecting on the bravery, dedication and sacrifice inherent in serving one's country.